Hello and welcome back to the Battle Room. My name is Colin, as always. So today I have a very, very special game for you. So recently I participated in the r/VGC Tour. So I do have one of these special Top Cut matches for you here where I competed against Ralph Dude. For those who do not know who Ralph Dude is, what are you doing? This dude's insane! This player has won the World Championships and also placed top 4 at Worlds back-to-back. Like, he got World top 4 and then he won. That's actually quite insane. A crazy feat. Clearly a very, very skilled player. And today we get to play against Ralph Dude. It was really exciting during the set. This is pre-recorded, so I'm just going to be giving you the step-by-step analysis and what I did right, what I did wrong, how could I have played better. And so yeah, this was recorded last weekend, so it's still pretty fresh. But this was a really fun set, and you know, playing against a world champion is always very exciting. So let's get into it. So one thing to note is that the team sheets were open, and I did have an entire night to prepare for this matchup. I top cut at around 5 p.m. The team sheets were released at like 8, and then I got ready and was ready to play. I was able to run sets versus my friends, just like practice with what we could guess the EV sets were and try to figure it out. So I knew exactly what I wanted to do, which was Thunderous ground on lead with Venusaur and Porygon 2 in the back. So Ralph Dude's team is really weird. There's a Scarf Kyogre, a Flamethrower Incineroar. There's some crazy techs here, and it was really exciting to play. But I do think the matchup is highly in my favor. I don't think there are much answers Ralph Dude has to my Groudon plus Thunderous lead. I get Weather Control, I threaten Defiant, and also I just have a positive matchup versus every Pokemon on the team. So that is the lead. I went with Venusaur in the back to give me that Grass type versus Rain. It's pretty good. Also, my Venusaur has Weather Ball, which is really important to dealing with the Ferrothorn. And then Porygon just to kind of be a switch. So it helps out the team. It's kind of just our defensive pivot in this case. Its main purpose is just to do that, and it also can Eerie Impulse. So we're gonna see an Indeedee Kyogre lead into my Thunderous Groudon. While preparing for this matchup, I did not expect this lead, really. I thought Kingdra Indeedee or Thunderous Indeedee were the most likely options, and when I practiced against the team, I did find that those were probably the most effective. But this lead did catch me off guard, and Ralph Dude actually really does mess with my prep and plays in a little bit of a way that I would have never expected, in a way I never tested, honestly. So I do get the Sun up, which is really important here because, you know, Sun is good versus Kyogre, always good. So first things first, we gotta max out Thunderous, first turn max, like, come on, you know we gotta do it. And Groudon is really important to preserve. If Groudon were to go down to a critical hit, Helping Hand Water Spout, I could lose the game almost instantly because I wouldn't have Sun to help deal with Ferrothorn. So I need to preserve this guy. That Groudon is too important. So I'm going to max Airstream Kyogre because I think it's pretty likely that Kyogre doesn't stay in. It's like, what's the point, right? And if it Follow Me is, who cares? I'll try to hit it with an Airstream next turn, so I'm faster than the Scarf Kyogre. Because I do know it's Scarf, open team sheets. So I withdraw Groudon. Everything's fine, right? Like, we still got that Sun. We're chilling. But, like, what's Kyogre really going to do? And then Porygon goes for Trace. And Trace is Drizzle. Now, I didn't account for this at all. Like, when this happened, I just stared into the distance and contemplated existence. I did not expect this, and it's my own fault, and it's my own ability, and I don't know if I want to use Trace P2 after this situation, but that's what happened. I traced Drizzle. That was the worst case. Like, there's a 50% chance it traces either one. It's completely random, but I did trace the more unfortunate one here, but either way, that's my fault. Like, I'm not saying this was unlucky. This was my B. I just didn't comprehend that if I switch in P2 here, I could trace Drizzle, and that could be really unfortunate. So we do in fact trace Drizzle here, and that's not good for us because now Kyogre can fire off a max powered Water Spout. I also did not expect them to max Kyogre at all. I thought Kingdra is the obvious max, maybe Thunderous. So this Kyogre max really put a wrench in my game plans, and huge props to him for finding this out because I thought this matchup was unplayable. But as we see here, this is a really difficult match to play when the Kyogre gets really massive. So obviously they go for the Follow Me to protect the Kyogre from a potential wild charge. But again, I'm just Airstreaming because I know it's Scarf. I want to be faster than this in the future. And also getting Airstreams is hugely important versus stuff like Kingdra. So thankfully I was not punished for my horrible Trace play. They go for max Hailstorm to do as much damage as possible to Groudon. But ooh, that was a close call. I got extremely bailed there. That was a horrifying situation, though. I just sat there with head in my hands, just absolutely pissed at myself for not accounting for the trace. So now, you know, the situation's looking good though. This is a pretty easy play here. I'm going to go for Max Flutterby into Indeedee to get that guaranteed KO. And I'm going to Eerie Impulse Kyogre. No matter what happens here, I'm in a pretty good situation. Like if Indeedee withdraws, who cares? I lower the special attack Kyogre by 1. And I also get this Eerie Impulse off. Max Flutterby is something that I really, really love. We're preparing for this tournament with Rogov. We were debating over Dark Move onto Thundurus or Max Flutterby in U-Turn, and I thought U-Turn was so cool. I have used it in the past, and I think Max Flutterby is honestly quite slept on. It's really hard to get on a Pokemon, but for a Pokemon like Thundurus, like having that Max Flutterby is really helpful because like look at how much I take from this. That's not even, that wasn't even damage. I think I got healed, you know? Like, that was nothing. So, the special attack drops are always useful. At this point, like, my opponent did have to switch out Indeedee. It's a pretty good thing to conserve. But, because they switched out Indeedee, boom, that means free Eerie Impulse. But, what this does mean is that Ferrothorn came in for free. Neither of my Pokemon really threatened Ferrothorn. I could Max Knuckle, but like at the end of the day, that's not going to do too much damage. And since it is open team seat, he does know that my Porygon doesn't even run a special move. It just runs Foul Play. So this situation is not the greatest for me. They know that their Ferrothorn is completely free to set up Iron Defenses. So I'm just going to go for another Max Flutterby onto Kyogre here, just in case it switches out, because at this point it's at -3. You normally don't want to switch out your Max, but they really need to keep this Kyogre alive because they know I have Weather Ball. They know I have Venusaur. So I'm predicting Kyogre probably going to leave, but just in case it doesn't, you know, we'll hit it with a nice little Max Flutterby. And then I want to switch out Porygon into Groudon, just in case, just to take even less damage at this point. And getting Weather Control is important because the whole plan of this game is to slowly out-position Ralph Dude until we get in a position where we can put Weather Ball onto Ferrothorn, KO it with the Fire move. That's my plan. That was my entire game plan here because I did not bring my Incineroar. My Groudon does not have a fire move. So if this Ferrothorn gets going, I'm going to lose. So I got to be really careful here. So they don't actually switch out Kyogre there, which really surprised me. But, you know, it goes for this little I think that was like 19 damage. Like, they go for the good old little water spout Max Geyser there onto Thundurus. It does negative damage, but they do get the Iron Defense off. So that is not a good thing. That's not a good thing to see right here. But, again, it's not a huge deal because Ferrothorn's not necessarily going to kill us yet. But there's potential for this thing to get going, and I do have to be really careful of that. So the situation, while it looks really good, their Kyogre's at -3, it's Scarfed. This is a potentially free KO onto that, or Indeedee, or something, get damage on something else. So it looks like a good situation. Wild Charge is extremely safe, but I'm still in a weird kind of limbo because of this Ferrothorn that's putting on a lot of pressure and is threatening to checkmate me. Because if I never get the Sun up with Venusaur, I will just lose to this thing. So Indeedee switches in. Again, this is a really good play just because, you know, I have to kill something. You might as well just switch it in, and they still want to keep Weather Control. Weather Control is the key to this game. It's a really fun game because Weather Wars are pretty common, but like Kyogre versus Groudon is a tale as old as time. We've played it in 2016. We played it in 2019. We played it in Sun Series. We played it in Moon. This war of the weather gods is truly something else, and it's something I'm very experienced in. And I know Ralph Dude is as well. He's a very good player. I'm sure he's played his fair share of Weather Wars. So it's a very fun game because it's all about positioning. It's all about conserving our weather setters to try and get an edge over our opponents. So that last turn was pretty unimpactful. I killed Indeedee, and then they went for Body Press into Thundurus, which luckily Thundurus lived. And then I got in Venusaur relatively free here. This situation is still scary, but I do have Koba Berry on Venusaur, which means Kingdra can never one-shot me, and I am threatening the ability to bring in Sun whenever I want. It is a little bit scary because Ferrothorn actually is the slowest thing on the field, so they can switch in Rain. So if I were to switch in Groudon where Thundurus is, and they were to switch in Kyogre, I would lose Weather Control completely, and I would put myself in a really bad spot. So I go for U-Turn and Sleep Powder. I'm predicting Ferrothorn to protect. It's a little bit risky. It's a little bit scary. So I'm just playing it safe here, and I'm going to try to put Kingdra to sleep. I also expect Ferrothorn to potentially switch into Kyogre to try to win the weather war, like I mentioned here. So he does indeed go for Protect, which is the worst possible case for me because I went for U-Turn and Sleep Powder into that Kingdra. So he makes the best play And I'm about to lose my Thunders, but he does not, in fact, go for Thunders here. He presses Body Press into Venusaur, because, like, Venusaur is the ultimate threat to Ferrothorn, ironically. Like, Weather Ball is so dumb. But since they go for that play, Thunders is chilling now. Thunders is like, hell yeah, this is a pretty decent spot. Like, I'm not too mad. Like, this isn't the end of the world. So here I am going to go for U-turn onto Kingdra, and I'm actually going to switch out my Venusaur into Porygon. And the reason I'm doing this is because if I switch into Groudon, they still could do that play where they switch Ferrothorn into Kyogre. So I'm just trying to account for that play so I don't lose to that, because that's the play I'm really afraid of. I thought they were going to switch into Ferrothorn to Kyogre last turn, but they went for Protect, which was way worse. So now I'm going to go for the switch into Porygon just to delay Groudon's coming in, because I don't want Groudon to come in and get smacked by Muddy Water. That would be really bad, because again, Ferrothorn is the slowest thing on the field. This thing is just a thorn in my side, good lord. Ferrothorn is so scary. Like, we played the game pretty well. Our max was probably a little bit better than his. We Eerie Impulsed his, but we're still at risk of losing just because my only way to hit Ferrothorn is that Weather Ball. So this team is pretty good, but oh my gosh, Ferrothorn can be such an issue. So Ferrothorn does switch out to Kyogre. I get this turn correctly. I'm celebrating. I'm pumping that fist. I'm ready to go. And they actually go for Draco Meteor into Porygon, which I didn't expect at all. But again, if they kill that Venusaur, they win. So it makes sense. I just didn't expect it. Like, they know I have Koba, open team sheets. But that does mean I get a free U-turn here, which is something I greatly appreciate. Now okay, so Paul has the weather. The rain is in Paul's hands. But now it's my turn on the Xbox, baby. I bring in that Venusaur. I'm going to bring in Groudon in a sec. But I bring in that Venusaur, and I'm about to take control of the Weather War. It's just a giant positional mind game. It's honestly quite nuts. So right here, I hype myself up. I'm like, all right. I'm thinking. You can actually see it. I'm thinking. I say, is Ferrothorn going to come in with Kyogre? Because Paul needs to win this Weather War. It's so scary. It's so scary. But I'm going to hard predict Kyogre to switch into Ferrothorn, because I know Paul wants to win the Weather War. I want to win the Weather War. I just want the sun up. He wants the rain. But right here, I call him to save his Kyogre, switch it into Ferrothorn. If I do go for this play and he goes for like Ice Beam or Hurricane or something, if he goes for Ice Beam and like Draco, this would be catastrophic. If he were to read me and call my Weather Ball and just stay in with Kyogre. But he knows that I can switch in Sun. He withdraws the Kyogre, baby. He withdraws the Kyogre. Ah! So now the war has been won, baby. The war has been won. And remember, Kingdra is at -2 from the Draco Meteor. So now it's permanently trapped at -2. The sun goes up. The Kingdra presses Protect. Icing on the top. And Venusaur goes for the Weather Ball. I have finally slain the Ferrothorn. That's all I needed to do. This entire game was kill Ferrothorn and win the Weather War. I do both things in one turn. I kill that Ferrothorn, which means Paul no longer has any switches. So now all I have to do is withdraw my Groudon and then bring it back in. And I will remain victorious as the Weather War winner here in Game 1. So all I have to do is conserve Groudon. I decide to also conserve Venusaur because both Pokemon are really good at just closing this out. And at this point, like, Thundurus is at 16 HP, Porygon's at half. Like, those guys aren't really that important anymore. So we kind of have to salute them off and send them to their deaths, sadly. Like, they've done their job. Porygon actually really almost cost us this game, but goodbye, buddy. So we send in Porygon and Thundurus. They're just... It's literally just a sitting duck, and they're just waiting to be destroyed here by this potential Water Spout or Origin Pulse. So Porygon gets hit with the Hurricane, thinking he's safe, and Kyogre goes for Water Spout. And both my Pokemon faint, but it doesn't matter. It's a small price to pay to win the war. And we've won the Weather War. So now we get up Sun. It's just smooth sailing after this. Kingdra's at -2. Kyogre's locked into Water Spout. Life is good, baby. We've got the sun up. It's a nice sunny day. No more downfall. And Groudon and Venusaur can easily close out Game 1. Now it's just, you know, the fact of clicking the buttons and making sure I win the game. But for the most part, I just want to make this as painless as possible. So I go for Leaf Storm into Kyogre, and I go for Precipice Blades. I want to kill Kyogre. If it misses, it's not a huge deal, but I would like to hit this move. Leaf Storm connects. See you later, Kyogre. Kyogre is gone. And then Groudon just needs to hit his P-Blades, but again, even if like he were to crit me, he'd have to get like a ton of Muddy Water accuracy drops or crit me like 1,000 times. So they go for Draco Meteor into Venusaur, which they're at, you know, -2, so it does like a little bit of half of what I have remaining. Now it's at -4, so we had to crit that, then like crit Groudon, dodge P-Blades. It would have required quite the miracle to win this one. Groudon actually hits his move, and we do take game 1. Hell yeah, Groudon. Groudon had to hit one move the entire game. Groudon was the president there that we had to protect the entire time. I played so cautiously around my Groudon. He never got hit. He never got to move. He got to move one time the entire game. So we take game 1, which is really, really good. I was honestly really surprised by how close that ended up being. Like, had I got that Ferrothorn turned wrong, I might have lost the game. So going into game 2, I was a little nervous because I thought this was really, really easy. I thought when I practiced the matchup the night before, I thought this was a really good matchup for me. So I was kind of thrown off a little bit. I was a little afraid. I was a little afraid of what Ralph dude was cooking here. Like I was really shocked. He played an unorthodox plan that I hadn't prepared for, and honestly, I think it worked as well as it could have. I think this matchup is really, really good for me. So going into game 2, I sat there thinking to myself, what should I do for game 2? And then it came to me. The same thing. No need to adjust. I think Groudon Thundurus is just absolutely disgusting. I am basically saying, yo, Paul, listen, I don't think you can beat this. I'm going to lead it again, and I want to see how you can respond to this. Because I thought the Kyogre plan was pretty good, honestly. The Max Kyogre. I didn't expect it. It did, honestly, almost set him up for victory with the Kingdra. It did look kind of not as close as it did, but it was pretty close. It was pretty close. Because Groudon never got to move, so there was that. But I think the game plan of just following the same plan is pretty fire here. So eventually I'm going to lock that in. But that is what we're doing. I'm expecting a Thundurus plus Indeedee lead or Indeedee Kingdra. Those seemed like the most potent leads and the scariest leads for me. But I mean, the Kyogre lead wasn't bad either. But basically, like, Instant and Selly aren't the most useful in this matchup, so, like, P2 kind of has to get brought along. Eerie Impulse is pretty good against almost everything there, but except the Ferrothorn. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of like P2's my switch-in, and that's all it's good for. So, we're going to hop right into this one. Game 2, baby. Game 2. So he's going to lead with Indeedee Kingdra. Now, this is the lead that I was expecting. I was confident in this lead. I knew this was coming, so this is an easy money play. I prepped for this. I was ready. So my plan here is to switch Groudon out, turn 1 into Porygon. Again, that's Porygon's job, is to take hits here. Thundurus and Venusaur Groudon are doing the damage, but I need a switch. Sometimes you need a switch. So this time I cannot trace Drizzle, which is amazing. But I am afraid that, you know, Paul could go for the Max Geyser into like Thundurus or Groudon and switch to Kyogre. That's my fear. So I'm going to go for Max Airstream into Indeedee because, you know, I need to damage that Indeedee. And I'm going to go for that switch because I need to keep Groudon alive. Groudon is the most important person in the entire world right now. Groudon is my everything and I can't let him go, okay? That's what it is. I got to keep this guy alive. So I got to switch him out. Most likely, I actually ran this matchup a couple times, and I actually had the Kingdra hit my Thundurus in some of the paths I ran, and hitting the Thundurus is actually even more beneficial for me, I found out, because Porygon is just straight up so unbeatable. So, they will withdraw Indeedee here into that Ferrothorn. So this isn't what I expected. I really did expect them to send in Kyogre there and potentially go for the big water move. So this is a little bit different. Again, a little bit deviation from the plan that I expected. But again, like, I'm not a master with Paul's team, so I don't necessarily know. Paul knows his team in and out, so it's a little bit different when he's piloting it as for the prep that I did the night before. So we're gonna see the Kingdra not max here, which is interesting. But this turn, you know, I hit Ferrothorn. I didn't go for the protected Kingdra, but I did waste the turn of my max, which can be kind of scary because if you're turn 1 maxing like this, like, there's a negative stigma behind it because a lot of the time you can lose really easily if you don't get the benefits of the max. I have to put on a ton of pressure right now because I pressed that big red button on turn 1. So I am on a timer. Paul can play safe and defensive and really cause issues for me. I gotta make sure my max works out for me. So right here. I'm going to go for that good old Eerie Impulse into Kingdra. And I'm going to go for max Airstream into Kingdra as well. Kingdra just protected. It can't switch. We know most likely Kyogre's in the back or Indeedee. So Eerie Impulse, a really safe play. So Paul chooses to withdraw his Kingdra to go into Indeedee, which is a really good play because he's just burning my max. That's all Paul's doing here. He's playing this really spectacularly because my max is just being wasted. Like I'm stressing here. These turns could have went way better for me. I'm not gonna lie. To be fair, I did do half to Ferrothorn and half to Indeedee, so I did do about 100% of the 400% of Paul's team. So like math, it's not that bad for me. But I still need to figure out how I'm gonna deal with the giant Kingdra or Kyogre in the back. It's not something I want to think about right now. So I gotta keep pressing these big red buttons. So I'm gonna withdraw into Venusaur here. These Pokemon aren't really threatening me, and getting an Airstream on Venusaur is a little bit nice. So I'm gonna withdraw into Venusaur, because again, neither of these Pokemon are really gonna do any damage. Ferrothorn does not have a single Iron Defense, so it's not a big deal yet. And one thing that is important to note that's going on right now is that I am getting a +3 speed Thunderous, which means I will outspeed Kingdra in the rain, which means I can U-turn in the rain to my Groudon to change the weather. So that's a really cool option because I can just press U-turn and then press the fire move onto Ferrothorn and win the game. That's a potential play there, which I wasn't able to do last game like I thought I was. But this is pretty good situation. It's not the greatest though, because Indeedee is, it's threatening me. The Indeedee is, like, he has 4 Pokemon. I wasted my max completely. Ferrothorn's just recovering HP too, so I'm losing the value that my max even won for me here. So I do have the speed boost. Those are permanent. But this situation is still a little scary. So I'm going to go for Weather Ball and Wild Charge. It's a really safe play because Ferrothorn doesn't threaten to KO on either of my Pokemon. And if Paul messes up here, he will just auto lose the game. So there is that bonus. It's just a safe play too, because Paul could get really, really fancy here potentially. You never actually know. So I'm just going to attack with both my Pokemon, make the really safe play. But Paul obviously is not going to give me that. So he protects his Ferrothorn and goes for the sack onto Indeedee. He just tries to Expanding Force. But, I had that covered with my cool, awesome Wild Charge. So the situation isn't horrible for me yet. So we're trying to win the Weather Wars, so getting those KOs onto Indeedee is really big because now Paul can only switch 1 Pokemon, not 2. I have the ability to switch 2. I also haven't taken damage, so this situation isn't horrible. There's a +2 defense Ferrothorn, which I'm not gonna lie, is a little scary, but who's to say I still can't win this? So I go for Sleep Powder into Kingdra, and I decide to U-turn Kingdra. This, again, covers for the Kyogre coming in. Because my Thundurus is faster, I can easily switch into Groudon. We're loving it. Groudon comes in, Sun comes up, Venusaur is now faster. Thundurus with U-turn is so sick on these weather teams, I swear. This is, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Flutterby and U-turn? Win-win. So Kingdra does go for protecting it, which makes me a little sad because that means I can't do my sick, awesome U-turn play. But it does also mean that, he's staying in Ferrothorn, just going for body press. If I did go for the fire move there, by the way, game's over. I just won. Like, I would have hard won the game right there if I went for Weather Ball. But Paul says, come on, Colin. You're not going to do it? I know you're not going to do it. So he just stays in there and attacks me, which isn't not very cash for me. But it does mean the game is not over yet. So now I am still threatening the same play onto Venusaur, or onto Kingdra there, with the Venusaur U-turn plus Sleep Powder play. But I'm also threatening that Weather Ball, so like I do feel like I'm in a pretty commanding spot because of that +3 speed Thundurus. So naturally, I have to make the same play because Weather Ball is just so risky. Paul's done this to me in 2 games where he just leaves that Ferrothorn in and he just doesn't care. Like, he could easily just attack again, but I'm calling him this turn. I know he's not going to go for my Venusaur. I also will probably live the body press there. So I really got to hit the Sleep Powder, but it's also my best play. So, yeah. He's going to max his Kingdra, which is a great play. Like, maxing Kingdra at this point. I don't have my Eerie Impulse P2 in. I do have to keep this thing safe. If he goes for a water move, like, he could potentially win the Weather War, which is disastrous. If I were to switch in Groudon and he goes for Max Geyser, I'd probably lose the game. So the situation is not the most cash money yet, but we're still kind of in it. He's still threatening a lot, but I can easily go into P2 because I got that free Airstream on the Venusaur. So I still have that weather in the back. I'm still threatening it. I still have it. But I do trade Swift Swim is kind of cool. I wish I traced Iron Barbs because I'm probably going to get body press. But more importantly, I do hit that sleep powder. Oh, baby. That would have been bad if I missed, because I'd probably take the max Wormwind, max Geyser on a Venusaur, max whatever. I'm dead, right? It's not a good situation. He goes for body press, but we know it does a little bit under half. Venusaur takes that very, very well. We're chilling now. We're chilling. Venusaur's still alive, which means if Venusaur's still alive, that means the game and the weather hopes are still alive, because I got that weather ball, baby. I got that weather ball. So right here, I need to conserve Venusaur. Venusaur is the most important Pokemon in the game. So I'm gonna go for that switch into Thundurus, because Thundurus is probably the most expendable, but also again, gotta keep that weather in the back. We're both just holding onto our Groudon Kyogre like, come on, I know you want to send it out, buddy, I know you want to lose the weather war, but we're just hibernating them, keeping them safe. They're resting, they're getting ready to come in. It's gonna be explosive, but we're keeping them safe. So Kingdra goes for Protect, I go for Eerie Impulse. So Paul's just kind of stalling the sleep turns while also keeping the threat of Kyogre alive, but now I'm in a better position here because I just Eerie Impulse for Kingdra. So Kingdra is now at -2, which, you know, that's never good for your Dynamax. Eerie Impulse P2, so sick. Another situation is showing off this most broken move in the game. I think Eerie Impulse is more toxic than Ally Switch. I said it. I think this move is so broken. It's way more broken than Ally Switch. We're going to go for Eerie Impulse again. It's just morally okay to use Eerie Impulse, I guess. So we're going to slap that Wild Charge. We got to do some damage to Kingdra. We got to ramp it up. Again, we're just kind of stalling the max here. They don't get that first turn wake, which is cash money. And we're going to go for more Eerie Impulse. -4. Have fun at -4. And they're just going to go for body press. Like, this thing's at +2, so +2 defense, that is. So the defense damage is pretty relevant here. Porygon's getting slapped around a little bit. It's not the most fun. But again, we're still threatening that fire move. If we can just bring in the fire move, press Weather Ball while the sun is up, curtains, we win the set. But we need to get in that position. So now we're going to go for Wild Charge plus Foul Play. Double tap into that Kingdra. A group effort here of just doubling up on Kingdra because, hey, if we kill Kingdra here, the Weather Warriors are won. The trumpets are played and we move on in the tournament. But we gotta kill the Kingdra first. So Kingdra does wake up here, gets that Protect, and we fired both moves into the Kingdra. So me and my Pokemon looking a little silly here, but at the same time, what can we do? Like, we're not, we don't really do any damage anywhere else, so it's nothing we can really do. They do in fact go for body press again, so Thundurus is just like, damn, that kind of sucks, but I'm still alive. So this turn, again, I feel like I have to go for the double tap onto Kingdra because I need to get Kingdra out of here. I need to find a way to succeed in the weather war. So double tap onto Kingdra. Kingdra can't protect and it can only switch into Kyogre, so that would be great if we killed Kyogre. So this situation is looking pretty positive for me. The Ferrothorn is still threatening me, but if I ever get a KO, then the weather war's won, and then we win. So that's all we're trying to play for here. So we're going to see Ferrothorn get withdrawn here. So now it's time. He's pulling the trigger. The rain is up. The party rockers are here. And Ferrothorn is not on the field anymore. So what this means, though, is Kingdra's at -4. So the situation's not horrible because Mr. Thundurus has this nice little vest on. So he's not going to take that much damage from this move. Like, he ate that up. That's a -4 Muddy Water. The rain was up, but... ooh, we ate that up, baby. So Kingdra goes down here. Now all we have to do is bring in Venusaur and the game is won, baby. There wasn't much he could really do there. Like, you know, like Kingdra could have switched into Kyogre, but that means that's taking the play. It could have went for the double protect, but we're in a pretty good spot. Foul Play does a little bit of a chunk to Kyogre. Kyogre's attack stat isn't horrible, so that wasn't too bad in the big picture of the game. The damage wasn't bad. Ferrothorn comes in here. So now it's just a race. We really need to kill Kyogre and make sure we have enough Sun Turns to press Weather Ball onto Ferrothorn. So on this turn, I decide to conserve Thundurus, but conserving Thundurus isn't to save Thundurus' life, it's to save Porygon's life. So we send in this Groudon, turn on the Drought, because I want to get this Eerie Impulse off. So I need the sun to do that, because the rain is annoying. But what this does mean is I'm putting a timer on the game, because if I lose Groudon, I will lose the game. If I lose Groudon and the sun is down, I'll lose the game. So I'm putting a timer. I have 5 turns to kill Venusaur unless I can reset that timer with sun. So I'm putting a little bit of a timer, but I'm not too worried because I do have 4 Pokemon still alive. But I'm going to take some free damage here, and if I ever do lose Groudon, like, then that timer is just ticking down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 until I can't press Weather Ball anymore. So this is still a little bit scary, even though it's a 4-2 advantage here. So they will go for Water Spout here. Porygon obviously eats that up. So does Groudon, honestly. I kind of love Groudon. I'm not going to lie. Groudon can be pretty pog sometimes. So we hit this Eerie Impulse. -2 special attack. Let's go. Kyogre's going to be hitting like a wet noodle now. But our friend Ferrothorn does get that Iron Defense. So Ferrothorn basically unkillable for our friend Groudon, which is kind of not as cash money. So we're going to go for Precipice Blades. I need to start dealing damage to Kyogre. And I'm going to go for Recover. I need to heal myself up. I'm trying to live the turns as long as possible. But again, this is, you know, we're on turn number 4. We have 4 turns of Sun. So I now only have 4 more turns to potentially press this move onto Ferrothorn. So the timer is ticking, especially if Ferrothorn does KO Groudon here. Like that would be pretty bad. But Groudon eats his little berry. He had a little snack mid-game through, heals himself back up to a pretty healthy chunk. So I'm feeling good about Groudon. Groudon misses Ferrothorn, but that's okay. That's okay. In the big picture of the game, we hit the one we wanted to. I'll take that miss all day. And he does crit Kyogre, so he kind of makes up for it. That crit does affect the game a little bit more than you'd expect, because you're like, okay, it's locked into Water Spout, who cares, right? But it does mean that Kyogre dies a little bit faster, which is kind of good for me. They do go for Leech Seed onto Groudon, which is not good for me. Now Groudon's got a timer health-wise, and remember, 3 turns left of Sun, 3 turns left to press that move to kill Ferrothorn, the Weather Ball. So I bring in Thundurus. Now it's time. No more playing around. It's time to let Thundurus die here so that I can press Weather Ball with Venusaur. Thundurus comes in. He's flexing on him. And they will go for Water Spout here. And Thundurus does, in fact, go down. The crit was really important because it allowed me to make this play. It allowed me to switch in Thundurus so that I can let Thundurus die, bring in Venusaur, while letting Porygon kill Kyogre, which is really, really nice for me. Because Kyogre definitely wouldn't have died there if it wasn't for that. And, like, you know, maybe a crit Water Spout on a Venusaur could change the state of the game, which is not something I want to learn. So, because Venusaur is relatively low, so a crit Water Spout could honestly have costed me. So it was kind of nice to get the crit. It really does help up my game. So there is that part is really good. So now I'm forced to send in the Sun duo once again. Groudon and Venusaur. Man, I thought this matchup was so good for me, but Paul's a really good player, and he really gave me a run for my money. I'm not gonna lie, because I really thought I was so confident going into this one, but it was really scary. So now we press the Weather Ball. 2 turns left, guys. 2 turns. That means if he gets the double protect, we might be in trouble. So Ferrothorn goes for the first protect. 1 turn of Sun left. I have to hit the Weather Ball here. The clock is ticking down because, you know, if the clock ticks down a little bit too much, we might lose this game. I go for Swords Dance just in case they get the double protect. I'm gonna need some sort of attack boost to try and win. Like, I guess I have to Precipice Blades forever. So here it is, the last turn. This is the final shot here. Ferrothorn goes for protect and doesn't get it. Weather Ball. Here it comes, baby. Boo! Just flying into the air, and the little fireball comes down and bonks Ferrothorn on the head and gives me the dub. Whew, that was a close one, and it was really, really scary because it looks like, oh, you know, why was that scary? I had 1 turn. If that didn't happen, I didn't get to Weather Ball, and I lost the game. So ultimately, I really needed that Weather Ball, and I'm really thankful that he didn't get the double there because that could have got really scary, and we could have had a game 3. But we didn't. We take the dub. So that was just a set I really enjoyed from the tournament. One of the highlights. It was really fun to play against Paul. GG's to Paul. I got a little lucky with that crit at the end. I think it really shored up the game. But GG's to Paul nonetheless. It was a really fun set. And his team was honestly really, really sick. And a real challenge to play against. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. It was a great time playing in this tour, playing against Paul. Please like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I hope you enjoyed the set review. I hope you learned something. You know, if you like this, please tell me if you like it. I can do more of these. But either way, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great and amazing day. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.